Howdy, welcome to May's MasterCast. I'm your host, Ben Wiggins. It is a beautiful, brisk day in Aggieland, and we are excited for today's show. As a reminder, the vision of the May's MasterCast is to connect prospective members to our May's community by painting the picture of Aggieland through different voices and perspectives. We are excited for today's show. Ryan Staples is a recent grad from Texas A&M's full-time MBA program. During his time at May's Business School, he founded a nonprofit organization called Her Mighty Hands. He and his team finished third in the world at the BI Norwegian Business School International Case Competition in collaboration with the EAT Foundation and the United Nations. He focused his MBA studies on supply chain and is currently working at Ford in their purchasing rotational program. Ryan currently lives with his wife, Lucy, and their 4-year-old daughter, Haley, and 2-year-old son, Jeffrey, in San Antonio, Texas. Let's go. We welcome Ryan Staples to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
It is our pleasure to have you. You started off at United Allergy Services, and now you are across the world, not literally, but from a professional perspective. You're now working with Ford. Tell us a little bit about your career evolution.
Sure. So I got my undergrad in biology, and I really liked my anatomy and physiology class. I thought, why not biology? But I quickly learned as I was seeing patients that I didn't want to be doing that. And the parts of my job that I actually liked was the business side, so influencing others. I made a decision quickly that I wanted to get into an MBA program. And from there, I sought out career paths that are more in the business space. And once I got to business school, I found an interest in the electric battery space. So we had to look at different companies, and Ford was an opportunity that opened up. And so I jumped on that. Wanted more than anything to transition from services into actually producing something that I could feel and touch.
What do you feel like was the thing during your program, your academic program, that prepared you best for what you're doing now?
So I think the most important skills for me, at least, is communication. So I work as a buyer for Ford in the rotation program, and I have to deliver bad news all the time to suppliers. It's a really tough supply chain environment right now.
Sure.
And so our suppliers are coming to us and saying, hey, we need X millions of dollars to recoup these costs. And I'm coming to them saying, we can't do it. And so having a communications course from Dr. Uceta really helped prepare me for those conversations.
And you got a chance to hone your communication skills. The competing, also one-to-one, but speaking with audiences as well. How do you feel like your coursework prepared you to compete on an international stage, to do the kind of uncomfortable speaking that you're talking about? What was the biggest thing that changed for you over the course of your time here?
So I would say my ability to work as a team. I'd always been an individual contributor prior to business school. And in the MBA program at Texas A&M, they put us in teams. We even do finals and midterms as teams, which is just crazy to me. But if you can't work together with others and play nice in the sandbox, then you're going to be toast. And that's been absolutely critical in my success in case competitions as well as in the real life.
Yeah. And you've talked a little bit about how your very first day, there was some context there that sort of informed the rest of your process. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I came into the program a little bit wary, a lot of imposter syndrome there in that space. I remember I studied for my GMAT for 2 years, for hours a day, so hundreds of hours, and most folks spend maybe 80 hours studying for it. And I still remember sitting in the testing center, looking at my screen and seeing a 540 as my score, which is not a competitive score. And I wanted to get into a competitive program like Texas A&M's full-time program. And I sat there devastated. And I saw that A&M had admitted a couple of students with scores that low, but not many. So I thought, what the heck? I want to go there. I'll go and I'll throw my name in the hat and we'll see what happens. And I got waitlisted. I thought, this is such a bummer. And then I got some advice from the admissions crew of here's kind of where you're weak, but here's some things you could do. And so I changed my application a little bit and then I came into the program. Well, I have that as my backstory. So I get here my first day feeling very overwhelmed, especially when I consider the caliber of the other students that were in the program. So many capable, talented, intelligent students that were there with me. And that imposter syndrome was a real thing I struggled with throughout the MBA program.
Yeah. How did you deal with it? What did you do to overcome that? Like, you obviously you're now a success story. So what what do you feel like helped you make that transition?
For me, I know I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but I am a really hard worker. And so for me, it was just, I'm going to work as hard as I need to work to be successful. I'm the sole breadwinner in my family. My wife doesn't work outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
And she and I decided together that we would go and get an MBA and she would still stay home with the kids. And so my wife and my two young kids that were 3 and 1 year old at the time made the commitment that we were going to do this together. And I was not going to fail. So it was just a matter of making that decision and then putting forth the work. So working extra hard in lack of the natural talent that I might have had.
Mm-hmm. So you did this then without an income at the time. How did you manage that part of the process? Because I think for a lot of people, the challenge of entering an MBA program is it's about the academic challenge. It's about making a transition that could be a little scary. It's also about maybe having to have a partner who works or having to manage without income during that time. Like, what did you do to make that work?
Well, first of all, my wife is my superhero.
Yeah.
She is just absolutely incredible. And so grateful for her and for her support. But financially speaking, that was a really big stressor. So we were fortunate enough to get a half tuition scholarship. And then the full-time MBA program here is very affordable. And it's only 18 months. So I wasn't out of the workforce for a full 2 years, which was really helpful. Student loans and then just federal aid is what we lived on for those 18 months. And then my internship helped a little bit as well.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about your case competition experience. And obviously those things are no walk in the park either. And you're adding that on to a significant academic course load. Talk with us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so actually about a year ago in March, we had Katie Lane come and speak to the MBA program and say, hey, would anyone be interested in participating in an international case competition? And I was immediately like, nope, I'm not qualified for that. But then she said, it's going to be working with food systems and food systems inequalities. Essentially, you'll be competing to solve world hunger. And a little bit of a light went off in my heart, in my mind of, okay, I'm not qualified, but that's something that I really want to be a part of solving. And so I decided at that point that I would, throw my name in the hat and see what happened. At least I can maybe participate on the team. Well, 2 days later, I got a call saying, Ryan, you've been chosen by the MBA faculty and administrators to lead the team and to select the other 3 members of your team. And I was just completely flabbergasted that I would be given such an honor. And from that period forward, I was asked to just kind of figure it out because there wasn't a lot of time. It was very much so rushed. It was a last minute case competition that was put on by the BI Norwegian Business School. And it was in preparation for the first ever World Food System Summit in collaboration with the United Nations. And we essentially were tasked in that competition to solve world hunger, which was very, very overwhelming, but a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, I imagine so. What did you discover about yourself while competing? What was your, I think an MBA program or any academic program, certainly following your completion of your undergraduate degree is about sort of what is the personal change. It's about what you learn, but it's also about how you grow. So anything that you're doing, to me, it's about, all right, what was the personal change? Like, what did you decide you wanted to do less of? What did you decide you wanted to do more of? What was that like for you?
So for me, the experience was really rewarding because I learned a lot about my ability as an individual contributor. Mm. I was put on teams with very capable people in the MBA program, and I found myself leaning on them a little bit more than I probably should have. And so what I discovered in this competition was I was the only business person, and I chose 3 people from the agricultural leadership school rather than other people from my MBA cohort to join me in this competition. And I needed to step up, and I identified that, hey, I actually can have these types of technical skills. I actually can contribute individually in a space and competing at this level. And that was really rewarding to me because that imposter syndrome was such a large part of my beginning experience during the MBA program. That really helped to give me some confidence boosters, especially as I went into the full-time workspace and I do international work all the time, calls all over the world in the current role that I have.
The self-actualization of that is really cool. I'm very glad that you had that experience. Were there any personal hardships that transformed your mind and mindset sort of from more of a big picture perspective as you move into where you are now? What are the hardest things you've had to deal with along the way?
So think about before school or during school?
Really either.
Okay. So I think no one's life is easy, right? And I think if we truly knew what other people were going through, we'd all be a little bit nicer. We're probably a lot nicer to the people sitting next to us on the bus or next to us in class.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the thing that's helped me the most is consistently choosing to do the right things at the right time, despite overwhelming emotional and physical drivers not to do those things. So, for example, when I was a sophomore in high school, I suffered from just tremendous depression and it got so bad I started having suicidal thoughts. So, overcoming that and then anxiety later in life, those were experiences that gave me a greater deal of empathy to others that suffer much more chronically than I did. And thankfully, I don't deal with those things anymore. But in those moments of just so much pain and difficulty where all you can do is survive, doing the right thing is not easy. It'd be easy to say, oh, what the heck, I'll just kind of coast by till this passes. But choosing in those moments to continue to do, again, the right thing, despite these pressures in my mind to not do those, has given me a great deal of grit. And it's helped me to be successful where I otherwise probably wouldn't be, because again, natural talent maybe not be there as much as other individuals, but I've met a lot of really talented, really lazy people that haven't been successful. And most of the folks that I speak with that I really admire are people that tell me I'm just kind of middle of the road, but I work really hard. And so I've tried to do that as well, is just work really, really hard. And that grit's been a really key piece of me being able to be successful.
What do you think? You said that we're kinder to our fellow person these days. And I think one of the biggest factors that has led to that is the fact that we're on camera all the time now, or we have to assume we are. Do you think there's anything else to it, or is it really just, or is it as simple as that? Why do you think we are better to each other these days? Is it just the accountability, or is there something else going on as well?
I want to think that as we become more aware and less ignorant to the suffering of others, that we are beginning to see a larger picture. So I think about those people that have been marginalized for so long, the people of color within our country, women, the LGBTQ, that whole community. These are people that for so long have suffered, and we're just beginning to speak about that suffering. And for those people that are not in those minorities, white males like you and I had no idea. I didn't know that the things I was doing or that the thoughts I was having were causing pain. But as we talk about these things and bring these things to the forefront, we spoke about it in the MBA program all the time. That really helped me to become more empathetic. And so I think that we're headed in the right direction as a country and as a world. And I look forward to seeing that progress even further.
Yeah, I hope so. We've taken some good steps. Still a long way to go in a lot of respects.
Sure.
But you now run a nonprofit organization as well called Her Mighty Hands. What can you tell us about that?
So this actually stemmed from the international case competition that I participated in. So we got together 3 weeks before the competition even started. And I was trying to select my team members during the snow apocalypse that happened 2 winters ago.
Yeah.
And so we really had 2 weeks for us to try to formulate as a team and get together. And so a lot of pressures there to get that done in the right time. But ultimately, we came away with this idea that placed us third in the world in this competition, which was a really exciting thing for us. And we got to the end of that competition, and the president of the Norwegian Business School said, "Ryan, are you guys disappointed you guys got third in the world?" And I said, "Absolutely not. This moment for us is a springboard from which we plan to launch this idea. It doesn't die here." And that commitment has really carried me forward to, from that point to 9 months in the future. So last fall semester, I actually, for my capstone MBA project, launched a nonprofit organization. And all the MBAs had the opportunity to do an entrepreneurial project their final semester. And I chose to do a nonprofit. And for those 3 months and since, I've been working really hard to make that become a reality.
What does it involve? What's the pitch?
Right. So in Uganda, 80% of the food that's produced is done by women. And the problem there is that for every 1 pound of food that a man can produce, a woman can produce, a man can produce 3. So they're 3 times as effective at producing food as their female counterparts. And the problem with that is the men are doing cash crops. And so the country, a third of the people in that country are suffering from chronic malnutrition. And with these women being so much less effective than their male counterparts, it's a travesty. And a large part of what's happening is women don't have access to the same educational resources as men. And so our idea for the case competition was to leverage technology to provide women with tablets or smartphones with videos of how to be more effective in their farms so they can produce more food for their families. And they're what are called subsistence farmers. So they produce food for their families, and any leftovers they can sell in the market. But primarily, these women are producing food so their children don't starve. And unfortunately, in Uganda, many of the men don't provide for their families. They make money from their cash crops that goes right back into their cash crops and for themselves. And so not only are these women producing food for their families, but they're also buying schooling, medicine, healthcare is all from the women. And so it's a really big problem. So we wanted to address this huge inequality of women and men in the country of Uganda. And so actually what we've done is I partnered with a nonprofit organization called Field of Hope that runs and operates in Uganda to be the boots on the ground to provide 10 women with smartphones that have videos of agricultural best practices on them so that they can learn how to be more effective in their farms. So Field of Hope already has cohorts of women that are there in the community that they've been working with for 10 years. So they handpicked these women to be a part of this program. What we're trying to do now is we're testing this idea of, do smartphones with videos of how to be better farmers actually improve their output as farmers? And if it does, this is a really easily scalable solution that can be launched across the world. And so we're excited to see what the results are going to be. And a lot of generous donors have helped me to fund this pilot program. And I'm working with the Borlaug Institute and Micah Dato, who is one of my case competition team members, actually, who came up with the original idea. I'm working with her in the post-pilot evaluation to see just how successful this idea is going to be.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So what's next for you? What's going to happen with the nonprofit? Like, where are things moving at Ford? Your family, obviously. What are you looking forward to the most?
So one of the great things about Ford is the work-life balance. It's one of the things that attracted me to it. And so I have some extra time to work on Her Mighty Hands nonprofit organization. And so what we're doing right now is we're running the pilot program, and then we're just getting ready now to kick off and get ready for the post-pilot evaluation to see just how successful it's going to be. So the idea is, once we identify, hey, is this successful? And if it is, how successful was this program? We plan to then go to larger donors. So I primarily went to family and friends and teachers saying, hey, could you donate $50 or $100 to help me to launch this pilot program? But now it's going to be a matter of going to government organizations and Fortune 500 companies saying, we did this pilot, here's the research, here's the publication in a peer-reviewed literature article, and we could use some help. I think that you could really benefit from your cultural response or your corporate responsibility standpoint to aid us in helping to feed the people in this country that you currently operate in. So that's the next stage, is to go and get some more funding and then to spread this idea, to hone it, and then to scale it up.
That's fantastic. Anyone you'd like to send some good bull?
Yeah, I would like to send some good bull to Dr. Mark Antonio. So she was my professor for the capstone project, and there was a point in time where I was trying to find connections in Uganda, and I was just running into wall after wall, and I was getting pretty discouraged. I had this passion, and I wanted to see it become a reality, but I just was getting stuck. And I spoke to her and said, Dr. Mark Antonio, I don't know what to do. Should I switch countries? I'm meeting folks in different countries, but no one in Uganda. What do you think? And she asked me to take some time away and just do some introspection and think, Ryan, why are you doing this project? Just get myself grounded again. Because I was getting so into the details, I'd forgotten the larger picture, which was to serve these women and their families in Uganda, to come from a place of privilege and help these people that just have so little.
Yeah.
And that moment of introspection gave me the strength to continue onward. And literally a week later, the connections just started to happen, and I was able to get into the country. So good bull to Dr. Mark Antonio for all of her inspiration throughout the entire program, but especially in that one moment.
Good bull to her for sure. She's one of the best. So thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. Drop us a like below and feel free to leave a comment if you wish. We appreciate positivity and constructive feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes and bonus content. You can also take us on the road using your favorite podcast listening app. We have those linked below. If you'd like to know more about Mays Business School or our guests, visit mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Talk with you soon.